Hello everyone! We are going through the Bible to find the importance of Christmas. Today's block is a crumbling wall. After God saved his people from slavery, he led them on a long journey through the desert. How long? The journey took them 40 years. 40 years is a very long time to be on one journey. They were probably hot and dirty and hungry and tired of eating the food that God had provided. So when God said it was time for them to go to their new home, you can imagine how excited they all were. But they were also afraid, because the first place that God told them to go was Jericho. Jericho was the biggest city any of them had ever seen, with walls so high it looked like it reached right up to the sky. God's people began to doubt what God had said. They doubted if they would ever live in their new home, and they doubted if God was really with them. God's people asked their new leader Joshua what to do. Joshua had taken over after Moses died, and he seemed to know a lot about battles. But Joshua didn't come up with a plan. God did. God told Joshua that he had a plan, and it wasn't the plan that Joshua expected. But then again, God often does things that we don't expect. The most important part of the plan was for Joshua and God's people to be strong and courageous. They needed to believe that God, who they couldn't see, was stronger than the walls of Jericho, which they could definitely see. So this was how God's plan worked. Early one morning, Joshua's army got up and they put on their armor, and they took out their swords, and together they went marching around the city. Not one day, not 2 days, not even 3 days, but 7 days. And on the 7th day, God told his people to march around the city 7 times. Then God told everyone to blow their trumpets and scream, and no one could explain it. But just as they screamed, the walls of Jericho began to shake, and then to crack, and then they fell to pieces. The strong walls of Jericho weren't strong anymore, and they weren't even walls anymore. That was just one battle that God won for his people. You see, God was with Joshua and his people, even when it was hard, and even when the people doubted if they would ever find their new home. Even when Jericho was scary, God was with them. So years later, when Joshua was very old, he reminded God's people of everything God had done. God had been strong for them, and Joshua said that as long as they followed God, he would protect them. Well, the people said they would keep believing in God, but just like before, they started to doubt, and they started to think that they could make their own lives better without God. So they started to push God away. So the picture of the crumbling wall reminds us of Joshua and how God gave them the city of Jericho just by marching and making noise, because they obeyed God. Tomorrow, we're going to hear about another fire, but this time it isn't a bush, it's on a mountain. See you tomorrow.